The world is a stage, but sometimes the actors forget the script. Or worse, they start writing their own tragedies while the audience is still clapping for the farce. We're watching a slow-motion car crash in the high-stakes theater of modern American influence. And honestly, the intermission is getting a bit weird. When the microphone finally dropped, literally, after the silence that followed Charlie's death, the scene felt less like a funeral and more like a fever dream directed by someone who had clearly spent too much time scrolling through dystopian Pinterest boards. You see, when Charlie Kirk was alive, the machine hummed along with a terrifying, predictable rhythm. But the second he was gone, the rhythm didn't just stop, it morphed into something disjointed, a remix played at the wrong speed. And there was Erika. I remember watching those first few days fully prepared to offer that quiet human grace we're supposed to extend to the grieving, but that grace lasted about as long as a snowflake in a furnace. Almost immediately, the podium became a stage for a performance so jarring, it defied reality. It wasn't just grief, it was a curated high-definition broadcast of how to monetize a tragedy. And the kids, God, the kids, trapped in the blast radius of this brand-building exercise. While the rest of us were watching the smoke clear, Erika was out there glazing the political elite, comparing J.D. Vance to her late husband with the kind of calculated dissonance that makes your skin crawl. It's the kind of thing that makes you wonder if we're all living in the same timeline. And then, the march, turning a death into a revenue stream so aggressively that it feels like the ghost of the man himself might be asking for a royalty check from the afterlife. Then came the Devil Eyes phase. People talk about the way she looks, that cold, searching, almost predatory stillness when the cameras aren't quite supposed to be focused on her. It's a look that suggests she's already 10 steps ahead of the room, calculating the ROI on her next breath. And the tradwife pivot? Please. This is the woman who spent years curating a boss babe persona, fueled by the very feminism she now stands on stage to dismantle. It's a pretzel of logic so twisted it deserves an Olympic medal. She is selling a version of domestic servitude that she herself has never actually lived, while her own mother's blueprint, a woman who cracked glass ceilings, seems to be the hidden manual she's using to navigate her own rise. It's a masterclass in irony, provided you don't mind the stench of hypocrisy. The feud with Candace Owens is the cherry on top of this dumpster fire. It's two sides of the same coin, spinning on a table, creating a blur that is both nauseating and impossible to look away from. Candace playing the role of the truth seeker, weaponizing her own brand of suspicion to pick apart Erika's, while both of them are essentially fighting over who gets to own the brand of the man who died. It's not just a personality clash, it's a power struggle masquerading as a morality play. And in the middle of it all, we have the videos, the dying wishes that somehow only surfaced when the narrative needed a booster shot, and the constant, breathless need to prove that they are the true heirs to a legacy that is rotting in real time. It's a story about what happens when you turn your life into a content stream, where even the most intimate moments, the letters, the private journals, the final words, are just assets to be liquidated for the sake of the next viral moment. Let's talk about the Aspen donor video, because that's where the mask really starts to slip. Candace Owens has been holding on to this footage for months, and frankly, Her tactical teasing of it is a work of art in its own right. She claims the video is a lie, a Frankenstein's monster of spiced audio and visual tricks designed to cement Erika's power. And here's the kicker. The dying wish for Erika to take over? It's not in the raw, unedited footage. It's a ghost, a phantom edit. Turning Point USA had a choice. Let the dust settle or build a throne out of the debris. They chose the throne. They started talking about AI before anyone even accused them of using it. A classic "why did you bring that up?" moment that reeks of preemptive guilt. They're playing a game of narrative Jenga. Pull the wrong piece and the whole thing comes down. They're dragging around the equipment Charlie touched like holy relics, putting them in glass cases for donors to stare at, hoping the aesthetic of reverence will override the absurdity of the act. It's a cynical play on human sentimentality. They know that if they can get you to look at the mic, you won't look at the balance sheet. They're betting that the audience is too invested in this spectacle to ask why they're being shown a prop instead of a policy. And meanwhile, the tradwife rhetoric is being hammered home, a rigid, suffocating philosophy delivered by someone whose own life is a masterclass in the exact opposite of what she is preaching. The theology of misery, they call it. The idea that if you're happy, you're doing it wrong. If you're sacrificing, you're winning. It's a perfect tool for control. It keeps the base hungry, keeps the woman in line, and keeps the revenue flowing. They've successfully rebranded submission as a virtue, a necessary step for the greater good of a movement that seems less interested in governing and more interested in becoming a lifestyle brand. It's patriarchal cosplay, and it's being performed with the kind of polished, pastel-filtered sincerity that makes you wonder if they have forgotten that real life doesn't have a filter. But beneath all this, the accusations, the leaked letters, the heckler moments that felt like they were written by an underpaid intern, is a simple, sad truth. They're all terrified. They're terrified of being irrelevant. They're terrified that once the mourning period ends and the brand starts to sag, they'll be forced to confront who they actually are without a dead man's legacy to prop them up. The feud with Candace is just the distraction. It's the mean girls drama that keeps the comments section churning, ensuring that we're so busy watching the fight that we don't notice the ship is drifting toward the rocks. And honestly, maybe that's the point. As long as we're picking sides, we're not asking the one question that matters. What happens when the content finally runs out? So here we are, a movement eating its own, fueled by the ghosts of leaders past and the raw ambition of those who refuse to let the show end. It's a cycle of manufactured outrage that's as predictable as the tides. Yet, we still stand here on the shore, watching the water rise. Maybe the real horror isn't the lies, it's how comfortable we have become living inside of them. As for Erika, the performance continues and the audience remains captive, waiting for the next scene in a play that was never really about the truth anyway. Life moves on, but for some, it's just a never-ending loop of the same scene, just with different actors playing the lead. What comes next? Probably more of the same, until eventually the curtain falls.